Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Prospero.ai stock market live streams. Good to see you all today. Happy Thursday, everybody. Today is February 19th, and the markets are in the red. Although, if you look at individual stocks today, they're seeming to move a little bit independently up and down across the board. We will get into a bunch of great topics throughout the stream today. I've already seen some regulars in the chat chatting. Presto and JC are here, so good to see you guys. Be sure to hit that like button if you're excited for the streams today and you're a regular Prospero live stream viewer. I do have to do a bit of housekeeping today again. Something is going on with our Twitter live stream, and I'm just going to have to post it, but we figured out how to do this our last time. So it should only be a jiffy, everybody. But let me do this quickly so we get our Twitter audience in here. Prospero.ai stock market live. All right, I think that should do it. Hopefully we are discoverable on Twitter now. Let me check on this. Yes, it looks good to go. All right, so back to our normally scheduled programming. Lake to your TTN ticker ad request, Stephen. Thank you, NW. I try to, if I see any that people are having trouble. Some people don't know about the Discord room we have. So if I see anybody that is, I need to fill in the gaps, I'll throw them in there. So it actually wasn't, I didn't even know about that stock, but I forget who had asked about that one, but I saw it needed to be added, and yeah, it's a good one to get in the signals. Hello, Johnny. Good to see you today. Let's go through some of the topics we have to discuss here, everybody. So starting off with the market, actually, before we get into the topics, let's take a look at the four signals we have to look through nowadays. SPY and QQQ unchanged since Monday at 0 and 4 respectively, but we are adding XLK to our net options sentiment check-in at the streams, which is at 22 right now, and XLI, which is at 43. So of all the things we're looking at, 43 net option sentiment for XLI, which is industrials, which fits into the whole value halo trade that we were talking about on Monday. So makes sense. Looks like nothing is changing there. I saw a stock. We talked about Caterpillar. It was Tuesday stream, not Monday. We were off this week, but we talked about Caterpillar on Tuesday. I see Deere is going crazy today. So it looks like a continuation of this trend we are seeing in markets. I want to ask George about, when he gets in here, all of these ongoing worries that are weighing on the markets. The USA and Iran tensions seem to be heating up again. I'm seeing some headlines floating around about how the USA might take some action within the next week or so. If that comes true, how that affect the markets? If the market's already pricing that in, how can we manage our portfolios around this risk? Then we're going to get into a long-time Prospero app signal favorite, AppLovin. They have some headlines flying around about them. They are going to be looking to build their own social media networking, next generation social media platform. And it's interesting, they're taking the exact opposite approach of Meta. Meta was like social media first and then ads on top of that. And AppLovin is ads first and social media on top of it. So it's a little funny there. I want to ask George, we've been talking about Snapchat a bit recently. He might give me some flack for bringing him up again, but maybe Snapchat is the perfect acquisition since the stock is so low and AppLovin's looking to get a great boost. That user base is huge. So interesting. Maybe AppLovin will look to scoop them up. Then we got some 13F filings that just came out recently. So we got a few headlines around that. We have, firstly, the highest earning hedge fund manager in 2025. Can we get any guesses in the chat today? If you saw this story already, don't spoil it. But if you haven't read it already and you're actually guessing, make some guesses in the chat. But we will get into who it was and just how much they made later on. We also have Hims and Hers acquiring Eucalyptus for $1.15 billion. I am very curious about the dynamics of the story since Hims and Hers stock has dropped so much. I'm wondering, how long do these things take to develop when they are coming to fruition, and like how much did the change in Hims and Hers stock price affect this deal, if at all? Hims and Hers is down 52% year to date and 73% over the past year. So I'm honestly surprised this deal was able to go through with that much volatility in the share price. So we'll ask George about that and what it means for them. Yeah, Nick, Hims is free falling. Oh, I see some guesses. Ray Dalio, that's a good one. Close but no cigar. Steve Cohen, winner, winner, chicken dinner. JC, you are correct. It was Steve Cohen. And as a Mets fan, I might add, I am very happy about this because it looks like our payroll is going to be well supported by the owner of the Mets. But yes, he was the highest earning hedge fund manager, which I'm going to save the exact number for later on of how much he made. It's a huge number, but it is honestly a little bit low for, like, for example, Mario's comment, Ray Dalio, and there's some like real heavy hitters that I think probably make tons of money. So I'm not exactly sure the data behind this. It was from Morning Brew that shared these statistics, but we'll get into it later on. JC said not happy about that. I'm a Yankees fan. Can't wait for baseball season. It's coming up soon, everybody. Um, but yes, where do we leave off? Hims and Hers. Oh, so that acquisition will help them expand globally, gives them access to Australia, Japan, deepens the presence in UK, Germany, and Canada. So we'll highlight Hims and Hers a little bit there. Then we have OpenAI finalizing a new funding round of $100 billion. And I saw some of the stats behind how the valuation that OpenAI is getting and the stage of their business, and they compared it with where Meta is trading at. And just for a brief overview here, OpenAI is valued about $830 billion with this deal, and Meta is about a $1.6 trillion market cap, so just about double the size. And we all know Meta's business; they're billions of users, they're massive revenue streams. The fact that they're only double OpenAI right now, which has a 12 billion annual recurring revenue right now, it's very fascinating. It leads you to ask, is it a bubble? I don't know. We will also bring up Berkshire Hathaway. So we got some statistics about Buffett's final trades in the market. He retired at the end of the year last year, but we just got some of the final moves from that quarter, and they cut their Amazon stake by 75%, which was a little surprising to me, being that Amazon is trading near the lowest valuation it has as a public company in a long time. So I'm wondering why or what Buffett is worried about that led him to cutting his stake in Amazon that much. He's been selling, or he was selling, Berkshire has been selling Apple as well a lot over the past several years. And Amazon also just passed Walmart as being the world's largest company by revenue. So a lot to dig into there for Amazon. I know JC loves our our dumpster diving, so we're switching it up today. We're going graveyard digging, but we're going to look at some of the IPOs that have been in free fall as well. So we're going to look at Circle, Figma, Klarna, and Bullish, all down 70+% now. Wow, these stocks have dropped quite a bit. Is there anything worth looking at? In volatile environments, I feel like IPOs a lot of the time get hit harder, or newer companies in the public markets get hit a lot harder than sometimes they should. So are any of these looking interesting now at this point and can recover and give us some gains in the future when the market gets some momentum? And last but not least, if we have time today, we will go into Lemonade earnings a bit. I think it's fascinating. This company is on its growth curve as a company, right? And one of their things that they mentioned and kind of bragged about or marketed was the fact that they're growing their customer base and their revenues while they're also declining headcount. And it's just a fascinating time in the world with the use of AI and how these companies are getting more efficient, and the whole job market workforce, and to see a company, you know, brag about declining jobs while also growing. I wonder if that's going to be something that investors are going to embrace or people are going to turn away from in the near future if the job market does get a little bit even more difficult than it is right now. And also, when you think about growth companies historically, I feel like they've always been, net adders of headcount, because you want to grow the business as fast as you can. You need more people to do it. But it does seem like we're entering a time where that is not exactly the case anymore, where companies can just implement maybe even more AI with the people they have, or like Lemonade is doing, even cutting headcount while also being in that growth phase of their business. So it's a really interesting time. And they had a weird stock move. They were up like 10%. Let's look at them right now. About 10%, I think, but in the pre-markets when the earnings were announced, and then dropped right at open. So the most they were up was 15% this morning, and they held the gains about 10% all the way to when the market opened up today. Now down almost 8% on the day. So interesting stock to bring up on the day here. Let me just say one more time, as we're getting some new viewers here that may have missed the beginning. Welcome to the stream, guys. If you're new, follow us on Twitter, subscribe on YouTube, hit that like button wherever you're watching. Likes are good for the algorithms, help our community grow. We got a great stream for you here today. Feel free to comment any questions you have about any stocks specifically, business, AI, whatever you like. We will be happy to get into them. Let me take a look around the markets now. As I said in the beginning, we are red here today, across the board actually. So SPY, QQQ, Dow, and Russell all red here, and kind of trending lower throughout the day, although it's not a huge day. The QQQ and Dow are down, tied for the most, around 0.2% right now. So not crazy movement in the markets overall. It looks like we are having a bad day for the mega caps. To go through some of the Mag 7, we have Apple, Amazon, Google, Meta, Microsoft, Tesla, all in the red. And we have NVIDIA in the red as well. So a clean sweep red there. So interesting. Look at when you see all of those Mag 7 stocks red, but the market not quite moving so much, you have to have some gains somewhere. So it looks like some of the smaller caps are doing okay here today. Looking at some of the nuclear stocks, SMR is up, LEU is up. Some Prospero favorite sectors right there. ASTS up as well, 1% right now. I want to check out actually ABVX, because it's a stock we mentioned in our newsletter on Sunday. And also we made a tweet about it today, if anybody saw that, highlighting it again. Looking very good in our signals, up 2%, almost 3% here now. It's got a crazy looking stock chart. Made a massive jump back in July and has been trending upwards ever since. So we got to keep our eyes on that one. All right, let's see how Bitcoin is doing here as well. We have Bitcoin up just barely on the day. It's been really doing nothing for a while now, for about 10 days or so, kind of trending in the high sideways, downwards a little bit in the high 60s range. So Bitcoin kind of taking a pause, a brief break of volatility. We'll see what the next move is there. We got some people mentioning how BMNR was looking more bullish in the signals recently. Check out them. We're gonna have a BMNR versus MSTR tracker now. BMNR red on the day. MSTR is green. So for those of you who don't know, that MSTR is the basically Bitcoin holding company, and BMNR is the Ethereum holding company essentially at this point. And it's Michael Saylor versus Tom Lee. Who will be right? Which crypto will be better? They're both betting bigly on each. Let me see what else is moving here. Anything major? Let's see what some of the biggest movers are on the day. Wayfair down 15% right now. Carvana down again. Hello, George. Welcome to the stream today. Good to see you. A few other big movers. Figma up about 8%. Moderna up about 8%. So yeah, we're going to get into a lot of these stocks. Nick in the chat. CMPS has earnings next week. I wonder if the doc plays the earnings or exits to see which way it plays out. That is a great question, Nick. I wonder if Matt's watching right now. He'll have to leave a comment. You know, I'll send him a quick text here, actually. We'll try to get his answer on stream for you.
I bet he is.
I feel like he probably will, because he seems like he's more of a long-term investor, right? So he's like a buy and hold more than trade, like news events type of stuff.
Yeah. Well, he's a profit taker, but he does like to buy and hold.
All right, let me just send this quick text to him. All right, there we go. We'll get his answer for you guys. NW said personally holding through those earnings. Yeah, even though the stock made a huge move. For anybody who's not aware of the CMPS is just catching us here and missed those streams. Someone talked about a stock last week on our streams, and then this week on Tuesday, I believe they were up about 40% or so. So some people are checking back in on that. George, there's a lot of headlines surrounding the markets now. These global tensions seem to be turning up a notch again. I'm seeing a bunch of headlines about USA and Iran and a potential action taking place over the next week or so. I think one of the articles I was reading was saying Trump gave it like a 10-day window of like when USA will take action or not. I feel like the amount I've seen this talked about, it seems like you say, like there's trial balloons and stuff. It seems like they're trying to test the waters here. What do you make of all these headlines? How are they affecting the markets in your mind, or how will they affect the markets if it does come to fruition here?
I mean, we're seeing it, right? Like, I think this is why, like, why we're tossing QQQ and SPY out the window, right? Like today was a pretty good day. XLK was looking better, so I do think already that switch is probably helpful. It's been helping me, think about the markets for sure. But yeah, we've been saying there's a lot of risk, right? There's just a lot of risk in the markets. It's a hard time. Like it's a hard time, to take on risk. It's a hard time to really think about be with the market so high. Like normally you might be more inclined to just like ride the market up because the market does generally go up. But I mean, I think I'm hearing more and more talk of like people talking about the market topping out, and then if there's already that belief, and then something happens, something escalates with Iran, things could go down very quickly, as we've seen with tariffs before.
I feel like I'm seeing the most bearish sentiment across social media that I've almost ever seen on while I've been in the stock market. I'm wondering, can the market goes down if everybody's bearish? Because it seems like the market always likes to disappoint like the consensus opinion. So I'm wondering, is that why it's being so stubborn and just trading sideways right now?
Um, No, I mean, if everybody's bearish, the market's going to go down, right? Like there's enough buyers here, and they might be algorithmic buyers. Like as bearish as people are, I still think there's a huge component of retail investors that are just like, their only strategy is buy the dip. And you see that in every bull market because for all people with these shorter memories know buy the dip always works, right? Even buying the dip on Liberation Day, worked out very, very well. So buy the dip has been a good strategy, but it's only a good strategy until it isn't. And, if you do like, I would say, buy the dip is a variation of what works for a lot of institutions. Of course, I think institutions are better taking profits, exiting. Like why people can't, like why, everyday investors tend to not be very good at buying the dip is because they lose 60-70% of their capital, and then they have to make very different budgeting decisions. They don't actually necessarily have free cash to throw back into the market as it's going down, whereas if you take your money out, you can throw a lot of it out. But yeah, I mean, I think every good investor is a buy the dip investor. It's just a question of how good you are at getting your money out before you take heavy losses. But no, I mean, I think there's still enough optimism in the like. What ends up driving the market up that I've seen is there's still good headlines around earnings. There's still I still think there seems to be especially around the good inflate, like the markets look a little healthier since we got the better inflation report. So I think there's a direct reaction to more optimism around rates. But I certainly don't feel very comfortable. I don't think I'll be more long than short anytime soon.
So this is a topic that I'm about to bring up that I've avoided so far because it's so gross and like I don't know, it's just nasty to talk about. But we have to at least cover it, like get your opinion, this like super brief, as much as you want to cover it. But just the Epstein of it all. Do you think this is an ongoing, like, is this a risk for the stock market? we're seeing some crazy headlines and stuff come out of this. So just whatever you want to talk about your fears from it or whatever, how much it's going to impact the markets.
I mean, people are starting to resign. And you know, well, I think, was it Pam Bondi? It was someone that kind of had a funny line that was like, if we arrest everyone from the Epstein files, like the economy won't work anymore or something like that.
It
It's like,
was her,
well,
yeah.
yeah. It's
Mm.
like, well, I don't think that's a very good reason not to arrest pedophiles. But yeah, like I don't think that's a too big to fail situation. But no, I do think there's some truth to that. Um, like I don't want to try like I don't, because of some of the people that seem to be rather implicated in this. Like I don't think we're actually going to see any prosecutions. But for example, like they just arrested Prince Andrew, right? If he gets to talking, like it could. Um, Now I don't know. This would be some crazy shit, but like I don't know if, like, let's say like Howard Lutnick went went to the UK, and like Prince Andrew like testified against him, and maybe even testified that he saw him do something to a UK citizen on UK soil. Like I'm not saying any of this happened, but just a hypothetical. Like I think they could arrest him. like what happens after that is anyone's game. But I'm doing that thought exercise to be like, shit, if that happened, like the markets would tank. That's like a huge international conflict. So yeah, I mean, I think people are apprehensive about a lot of things, and these things are kind of tied together. Now, I always like to be very careful when I say this type of thing, and I'm not, uh, there are people that think that some of the escalation with ICE was to distract from the Epstein files, and then actually it went back the other way, and that the ultimate release of the Epstein files was to distract from the ICE disaster. I just think that's kind of funny all around. But if I'm just like running through the scenarios, right? Like if like shit does get very hot, hotter than it is now here in the US, I think people might be concerned that certain individuals could cause a lot of trouble to distract from what's going on in this country with the heat around the Epstein files. So I think that plays into a lot of the picture of where you started, right? Where it's just like I think uh the geopolitical situation is very, like, people are feeling a lot of tension with it now, and it's hard for the market to it's hard for people to take their hedges off. It's hard for the market to get sustained optimism, right? If people are worried about the geopolitical system. um but I have to say, on a personal level, fuck all those people. Like, I hope they all go down. I hope the owner of the Giants like gets stripped of his shares, and he has
Oh
to,
my
like, it's
gosh.
crazy that some of these people aren't resigning. And it's just like, even if you don't think you did anything wrong, other people seem to have some remorse or shame over it. Some people are just like pretending like it didn't happen.
Hmm.
Fuck those people. I hope that we actually prosecute some of these people, because it's pretty nauseating uh, to watch, like, other countries starting legal proceedings off of the evidence that we've had the whole time, off their own people. Like, if that's not a failure of our Justice Department, I don't know what it is. And you know what? I'm not partisan about this. For everybody that's like, what is this government doing? The Democrats had all the same information, right? So I don't think anybody's hands are clean. from this. And I believe it was like a Democratic DOJ that like pushed away the original Epstein files. So this isn't partisan. Like both of these political parties in power don't seem to give a shit about their friends in this pedophile ring, and it's it's gross. And I think everybody thinks it's gross. I mean, I think everybody that's not in the files. But it's a shame that we can't actually it's just another example how little power we have in this country, because like everybody thinks it's gross and nothing's happening.
It is gross, and you see the people, and you mentioned Howard Lutnick, and like looking at his quotes before and after when he's testifying, it's just like it's such a crazy situation. Um, is there a sector like I'm thinking?
Fun as kids. Sorry, that's like we just have to go back to that where it's like that's how weird this shit is. It's like I don't that's not you brought your kids to the pedophile island. That's your defense. You brought your family. Like that just makes you a little weirder to me. That doesn't make you innocent. You're like, oh, like I brought my family. It's like that's even more fucked up.
The way he tells the story too, with like a smile on his face or a little smirk, it's crazy. But to get back to the market impact from this, like, is there a sector that will be the worst? I'm thinking like big banks are like very implicated in a lot of this, so like J.P. Morgan and others. Or in the worst case scenario for all of this, is it just like an overall everything gets pulled down?
I think it's the whole market. I mean, I think growth. I'm most worried about growth. When people are nervous, growth gets attacked. I think you're right. Um, like in the scenario that people are prosecuted, um, a lot of assets might get frozen, right? Um, and um, yeah, I mean, it's just a drag on. I mean, what isn't it a drag on? Like probably energy. Like that's the better thing. Energy, utilities, like, you can look for higher, um, stocks that trade at lower PE ratios. Like I think that's the best way to look at it. Like the higher the PE ratio, the more in jeopardy this uncertainty is, because that's the first thing. That's the first thing people sell, because if you're smart, you know that you know optimism is what carries companies to high PEs, right? When we look at Palantir, like there's obviously, we've talked about this a lot of times, right? Like we could debate all day long if it's a fair valuation, but the only thing that potentially makes it a fair valuation is how optimistic everybody is about the company, right? It runs on optimism. So when that, overall optimism starts to get removed, valuations get more realistic, right? So pick your, that's where like value investing really matters again, right? If you're worried that this is going to happen, I'd take and this will affect the market. I'd take a look at the PE ratios of your portfolio and start like trimming anything over 50. But like if you start going, into the hundreds, 200s, those are the stocks that are going to get hammered.
Well, I'm happy to talk about that situation a bit, because I feel like it is like the elephant in the room. And if you look at a lot of the uncertainty in the markets, like why the SPY, QQQ, NOS has been so low, why people are rotating to the Halo trade, all this type of stuff. People have been like, well, what's really driving it? I don't know. It might be that. So good to bring it up and chat about it a bit here. We will move on from that situation. Hopefully, it doesn't derail the markets completely, but we shall see. But AppLovin made some headlines today, and they are announcing a next-gen social media platform that they will be developing in response to them failing to get TikTok. It looks like this is their next move. It's kind of interesting. They're kind of like the complete reverse of Meta. Like Meta was social media first, then ads. AppLovin was ads first, now looking to do social media. Do you think that market is like, you think it's a newcomer to social media is going to be able to have success uh, from an up and comer with all these platforms that already have such strong user bases? I wanted to throw out there, Snapchat's dying. They got a ton of users. Maybe AppLovin could scoop them up and just grab all the users. But yeah, what do you think this means for app?
Tall order. And like, I'll tell you why it's especially a tall order in my mind. Um, because like at least some of these social media places were like social media places first, and then they ended up serving you ads, and you're like, all right, I guess this is the price of admission. Like, if an ad company is like, hey, we're starting a social media company, like, I think it's gonna be pretty hard to acquire users when everybody knows that's your primary, like, and like then it comes down to like, okay, are there any like particularly good features? And it's like, what is AppLovin gonna do that Snapchat wasn't doing? Like Snapchat like tried to continue to do everything to acquire users, right? So like, yeah, I you never know. Um, you never know if like a place has like a plan to do something unique or whatever. Like they certainly have interesting technology. AppLovin does. But sometimes you have to see how the market reacts, and it doesn't look like the market is all that excited.
Nick is saying at a minimum they'll have to copy short form reels content like everyone else does. That's my question. Is like, where can they innovate in that like social media format? It seems like it's so like it's like a fine science now, and all the platforms really copy each other and have gone the same direction. Like you look at where Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, like they're all kind of short form video. I mean, X is still a lot of written content, but they have videos too now. It's like they're all going the same direction. So how could AppLovin kind of change it up would be my question there.
I mean, it's really hard. Yeah, it's really hard to invent, a new category, right? And if you talk about it, like video was very hard to crack. Like I believe Reels were around before, and like Snapchat at least I think had stories or whatever before TikTok. But you know, TikTok basically just used like um CCP, like government grade AI, right? And all of a sudden they had a good algorithm to do it, and that's what ultimately cracked video. Um, so what's the next frontier? I mean, I think if I can think of any social media that would work, and I don't think anybody's figured it out yet, it's a lot of people are talking about this. Something that actually brings people together IRL again. Like if someone could figure out a good way to do that, um, I think that could be a very powerful like social media, like especially like for younger people that are just like, hey, like, I see, people, it's like video, like here's the videos that are being posted for people around, I don't know. I'm not trying to invent the next thing, but I do think that's like we've pretty much in terms of products gone as like far away from each other and like into the phones as we can get. Like I have to believe we got to go back the other way. Um, or I mean, or we just go like that's obviously I talk about like the metaverse VR, like we go all the way off the phones. I think those are the two things, but they're both kind of saying the same thing, right? A more real experience, whether it's a more real virtual experience or it's a more real life experience. I think that's going to be the next innovation in social media.
It's a perfect time for me to bring up a counter trend is kind of what you're talking about. And I've thought recently, maybe with all of the focus on AI, I don't think we've talked about this in the stream, but I feel like companies in the next like year or two, you're going to start see it popping up where companies are marketing like no AI used or like all human like company or like something to that effect. Just because like, the pendulum swings in each direction. So it's been so AI focused for so long now, especially if AI really, really starts to like derail the job market. I feel like you could kind of leverage that in marketing and like connect with people who have been affected. But what do you think? Are we going to see kind of this counter AI trend? Because that's what you were kind of like, or like counter tech trend, more back to the basics, kind of like we see in fashion, what goes around comes around. You think we could see this in the business world?
Um, yeah, maybe. I mean, I don't. I don't know.
If it happened, I think it'd be like I was saying, like a counter trend. Like, oh, it would still be heading all in tech AI direction, but just like a brief reset maybe for people.
I mean, I don't know. Like, I think we might be like too far past that, right? Like, I think AI is like so embedded in everything.
It might just be the older generation. I mean, AI has to be like what the internet was for some people, right? Like there will be some portion of people that just never really adapt to it. JC said pharmaceutical companies have said to vendors no AI in use of our clinical trial data. I don't know if pharmaceutical companies is the one I was thinking of though. I feel like that would be beneficial. I want them to use like the most data they can.
Data's getting so great. Yeah, I was talking to someone about like one of his big AI clients. He like works for a data company. Um, and he was saying that they were just working on getting toilet flushing data for like the hospitals, and apparently people's lives are being saved because they train models on like the time it takes from someone to like walk out of the door, like their steps, like how long, like yeah, it's kind of crazy. Like I was like, you hear that and you're just like what? And then they explain the application. It's like, yeah, I could see that saving lives, but that's crazy. And my comment on that is like, it shows how much they're already taking in. If it's just and I don't know. I mean, I guess if you have audio data of the bathroom, that's like not that much better than having video data, but maybe that's legal, and maybe if it's a hospital, kind of crazy.
Uh, man, that's somewhere fine in the terms and agreements, I guess, of audio of your bathroom usage. But yeah, interesting stuff there. Moving on from that, I have a story about the highest earning hedge fund manager of 2025. George, you want to take a guess before I reveal? This is from Morning Brew, by the way.
It's not. So it's not going to be Ken Griffin if you're asking me, because that's the obvious. That's the obvious one. Um, Jim Simons.
No, we have talked about this guy a decent amount on the streams.
Talk about this guy a decent amount on the streams. I mean, does Larry Fink count as a hedge fund manager?
See, that's the thing. I think some of these guys probably make more than this person. You want me to say it? It's Steve Cohen. Um, but like I don't know
Yeah.
who Morning Brew kind of qualified as like a hedge fund versus maybe some other business aspects. But because the number they gave also, I'm curious for your because you'll probably know more about like if this actually is, or like some of the guys you just mentioned make more. So Steve Cohen per Morning Brew is the highest earning hedge fund manager of 2025, making 3.4 billion, roughly 9 million per day. Um, so I'm liking this from a Mets payroll future, but 3.4 billion, it kind of, I mean, it's a crazy lot of money, but it kind of sounds low when you think about some of the behemoths. Someone mentioned Ray Dalio before also. Um, so what do you think? Do you think 3.4 billion is like the tops of what anybody made? I know it was a difficult market for
Probably, like it's harder to
institutions.
make like Fink might have like a tax, like when it's a public company, like I think that might be a pure cash thing, but no, I mean Cohen's the Cohen's the legend, even though he got caught. He's um anybody that I know that knows him, um just as like even in the hedge fund world, like smartest guy in the room, like knows everything. And like that's the thing, people probably listen to me and they're like, George knows a lot about the stock market, but like I'm not reading the Wall Street Journal every morning or like anything like that. There's like people that like eat, sleep, and breathe this stuff, and then there's like Steve Cohen, who's like on a complete other level. And like not only does he know like everything that's in the papers, he's got all his contacts and his companies, and like what he was famous for, like other than the stuff that was like skirting some of the legal things. What he was um what he was kind of famous for was like people even trying to like make moves on him, like short a stock to get him out or something like that, and him either like figuring out on it on his own for God knows what reason, or other people coming to him and telling him, and he had all these like informants and he has tentacles everywhere, and like people are very loyal to him that like formally worked for him. I don't know if that's fear or love or both, probably fear. But yeah, it doesn't surprise me. He's the best. He's the gold standard in the hedge fund industry.
Well, if you can crack the code of the stock market, please deliver a World Series for us, Mr. Cohen. Crack the code of the MLB. The Dodgers are a tough competition. We have Matthew in the chat talking about, of my watch list of 92 stocks, collectively a big drop in upside rankings from 83 upside down to 74, while downside +1. NOS unchanged. Puzzling. Any insights here, George? Seeing upside drop, downside kind of stay the same, and NOS as well.
I kind of saw an upside drop. Like sometimes because we have these temporal cutoffs, it's quite possible that we've seen stocks age out before. It's quite possible that a lot of these stocks had expirations that aged out. That would be my guess. When was the last big options expiration date? Let's see. Options expire. Next big one's the 21st. Yeah, it's possible they just age out. That's not necessarily like that's not unheard of behavior. But I can look into it a little more too.
Happy to answer that question for Matt. Moving on to OpenAI, finalizing a new $100 billion funding round that will value the company at $830 billion. And it's staggering, especially when in the thing I was reading about this, when you compare them with the likes of a company like Meta, whose current market cap is around like 1.6 trillion, so just about double, but they have, billions of users, I think close to 4 billion across all their apps. They're doing 200 plus billion in revenue, while OpenAI is doing about 12 billion and only 800 million weekly users. So, I mean, the staggering differences of their businesses as they currently stand today, and I guess the way they project OpenAI, or is it a bubble? I guess is the other side of the question. Like the fact that it's so much smaller and it's being valued at half the size of Meta now with this latest funding round.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of crazy, right? And I mean, I think that's a question of things getting pretty overvalued, like, right? Personally, I think. Um, just because, um, you know, especially with this question on ads, especially like Gemini, like everybody's talking about it as if Claude, like Gemini was a bit like everybody's talking about Claude Opus 4.6. Like, I think that's very aggressive because if you think about Meta, you know, Meta is, consistently profitable, right? It's kind of crazy and has been forever. And OpenAI just is not there. Like OpenAI, it doesn't even have a forecast to be profitable and when that's going to be. And how many people they might lose in ads in the attempt to become profitable. So yeah, that's kind of crazy.
The overvaluation does seem to be way more so in like the private markets versus like the public companies, though, right? Like these mega caps, they don't really. I mean, they have high PEs, but they're beastly companies with huge cash flows, huge like balance sheets. Would you say like much more overvalued is like the private sector or like startup AI world,
Yeah, I
open AI
think I
world?
think what happens in some of these situations is it gets like everybody just wants to get in so badly that uh that they end up, the demand creates a frenzy and they overpay. But like I think that's kind of dumb.
Can you talk about anything or provide any light on the amount of water that's being used in these AI? Do you know anything about this? Because I caught something that was like they're using a crazy amount of water to cool per token or per like 50 tokens. I think I was reading they use like a gallon of water or something. And I'm wondering, like, as it scales, how is it sustainable, or just if you have any insights on like, because it seems to be something that people are talking about, the amount of water used in the data center cooling.
We can research it more, but I don't know anything. I don't
All
know
right,
enough
yeah.
about this to
I,
speak
w-
on it.
I,
Yeah.
it was just an interesting thing that I've been seeing more of recently, the water issue, but we'll come back to it in the future. I also want to mention Hims and Hers acquiring Eucalyptus for $1.15 billion. Now, Hims and Hers stock has plummeted quite a bit. So I'm wondering if you can provide any insights to like how a deal like this would, how long it would take to play out. Because right now, Hims and Hers market cap is around 3.5 billion. So this is like nearly a third of their company. It's a huge acquisition from where they sit today. But I wonder if they started this deal like 6 months ago or whatever, when they were, 3 times the size, if that's something that could have changed this deal throughout it, how it still went through. Why they did this is it's going to expand their presence in Australia, Japan, UK, Germany, Canada, so much more international business for them. But yeah, are you a little surprised that this deal was able to go through, or that Hims and Hers was able to get it done with the stock having had so much volatility recently?
I mean, we talk about this all the time, right? It's like I'm sure they made a really good offer because they want to change the narrative, right? That like managing the story in the stock market is always like almost as important as anything. Um, and so yeah, I think that's all we're seeing right here. We're seeing an attempt to manage the story.
So you think the drop in the stock actually put more pressure on them to get the deal done versus
Yeah,
not?
absolutely. Yeah, they like I don't know how the stock did today, but sometimes especially in a retail driven stock, that's going to really change things for you.
It did pop on the news this morning, but I think it's in the red now. I'm trying to pull it up.
All right. I got to do a few things before close.
All right. Bye, George. Thank you for the stream today. Chat, thank you for tuning in. Happy Thursday, everybody. We will catch you for a normal trading week, or streaming week, I should say, next week. So Monday, 11 a.m., Wednesday, 3 p.m. If anybody's tuning in late, some topics we didn't get to that we were going to today, JC, stick around for a minute. I'll give you our graveyard stocks for the IPOs. I think I said them in the beginning, actually. You guys are welcome for the stream, though. So I wanted to mention how Berkshire sold 75% of their stake in Amazon, and they've been selling their Apple position as well. And this comes at a time as Amazon just surpassed Walmart to become the largest company in the world in terms of revenues. So it's very interesting to see Berkshire keep selling the mega caps. The IPOs we were going to check in on were Circle, which is down 80%, Figma down 82%, Klarna down 76%, and Bullish down 73%. So IPOs that have just tanked ever since the highs back in late 2025. And last but not least, Lemonade stock. Maybe we'll save Lemonade for next week because it's one we like to talk about. But they just reported earnings and had an interesting growth versus higher chart that I want to bring up. So we will save them for Monday stream. But appreciate you all tuning in. Best of luck with your trading the rest of the week, everybody. If you enjoyed the stream today, be sure to drop a like before we end. And I will see everybody on Monday. You're welcome, JC. All right. Bye, everybody. Have a good rest of your day.